And we're live. Okay, so, folks, welcome to Session 0 of the Sky Knights campaign. This is a game where everybody's playing a Sky Knight, a noble knight of the Order of the Sky Knights, and the idea is you get to choose a flying mount at the start of the game that will level up with you, and that you is your special companion, and you fly around the floating archipelago atop. So, this is going to be a lot of fun, and tonight we are doing Session 0, where these folks already know this, but for anyone watching this later, Session 0, we are setting some of the ground rules and expectations for the game. Everybody's getting on the same page, and we're explaining some of the special mechanics and rules in play for this particular campaign. So, the concept of the campaign is that you're going to be spending a lot of time or a lot of combats flying around up in the sky between the floating islands and doing quests and missions and all these amazing things, trying to uncover the secrets that are out there, and exploring for the Girion Dominion, which is the kingdom you guys are native to, or at least part of. In order to... I think those are all the basic concepts. We have our whole campaign intro, which I assume you guys have at least glanced at. And several of you have already written backstories for the game, which is awesome. Oh, hey, Corey's camera just popped up for me.
Yeah, you all popped up for me a second ago.
Wow. Technology.
Yeah.
At long last.
So in the campaign intro, it explains the basic concepts of the setting and your place in it, and then we also have the Oaths of the Sky Knights, which you guys have taken prior. You've sworn to these oaths prior to the start of the campaign, and after many years of training and proving yourselves, you have been granted the title of Sir Knight, and you've been assigned your mount, whom you most likely had a relationship with prior to that, and have been training with for a while. Only one of you has opted for the Dragon Mount, which is kind of an NPC, really, more than that allows in return for certain things, as we shall see. So, if everybody could go down the line from Matt through Lindsay, and say if you have decided on, not everybody's decided on their character completely yet, but say the name of your character, their race and class, and your choice of mount, and anything else that you think somebody would know upon first meeting you.
Okay, so, hi, I'm Matt. Hi, everybody.
Hi,
I'm
Matt.
playing a wood elf fighter who he goes by Andy, but that is the short form of his name, Iandil. He has learned that the city-dwelling folk like to give nicknames to everything, and so he goes by his nickname Andy, which someone called him when he first arrived here. He rides a we're calling it a hawk. I'm using the eagle stats, but I'm calling it a hawk named Emlenfell, who he calls Emmy.
Awesome. And he is a wood elf. What was the class again?
Fighter. He's going to be an archer specialist.
Awesome. That should be interesting. Alright. Corey, known as Pate.
Yes, so my character's name is Pate. He's going to be a human fighter, and he rides on a griffin. And unlike what I assume is true of most of the other knights, he is not of any kind of like noble or distinguished birth or anything like that. He's earned his spot in the Sky Knights due to some distinguished service in the military. So he doesn't have a surname. He's just an average guy. His name is Pate, and that's it.
Interesting. Well, not that average. But
yes.
You're starting to gain out.
He thinks of himself as average.
Got it. Okay, that was an in-character description. Got it.
Yes.
Makes perfect sense. All right, Josh.
All right. So my character's name is Zanzoran. He is a half-elf sorcerer who I was the idiot who chose the dragon. So we're gonna see just how fun this turns out to be. But I was excited at the prospect of having a mount that acted more as an individual character with a bit of autonomy. So I'm curious to see how this plays out in the story. As far as his induction, the idea was kind of like Andy. My character was part of a tribe that existed outside of the the main civilization, and had some minor interactions with them and stuff like that. But he and a number of others were actually caught up in whatever this cataclysmic event was that had blown the main continent away. So they were kind of stuck there as refugees. And my character was not initially supposed to be offered up as a tribute, which is what his tribe did every generation to kind of keep the friendship alive between their people. But because he was the only one kind of left, they allowed him to participate, and he worked his way up into the knights eventually. So that's kind of the idea behind that.
Awesome. And do you know? So, what was his race and class again?
Half-elf sorcerer.
Half-elf sorcerer, and he is a bronze dragon rider.
Hopefully not bronze dragon food, but we'll see how things go.
Could you spell that name for me, please?
Sure. Let me pull it over here real quick.
Zanzibar. No,
Zanzoran, yeah. So
Zanzoran.
XAN apostrophe XORIN.
Awesome. Zanboingzoran.
Exactly.
Alright. Dave.
Hey there, I am going to be playing Reet, a goblin who is basically trying to prove that goblins aren't just monsters, and by becoming a knight and riding a giant bat in the back. He is a warlock. Most people really won't know much more about, he's gonna be basically, I've thought of as a stable hand who just kind of worked his way through hard work and the right contacts into getting himself into place in the Knights.
Cool. And Dave's already written multiple pages of in-character interaction and backstory, which is awesome. Okay. Princess Kate.
Yes. All right. I don't really have a whole lot of backstory.
That's
but
fine.
But I'm going to be playing a tiefling enchanter who rides an owl.
A wizard?
Yes.
Interesting. And you are a giant owl rider. Okay. And Lindsay.
Okay, so my character's name is Kaluna Voss. She is a Lightfoot halfling, and her class is going to be a scout, which is one of the it's one of the eventual kits you can take for rogue. She's going to be an owl rider, and her owl's name is Bethan. My rough idea for her is she's a little inspired by Moana, so the idea is basically her tribe of halflings, the Lightfeet, are kind of known for a nomadic lifestyle. So the idea that her people kind of colonized different islands over time and established presence there. But with this cataclysm that happened, her people were kind of trapped into a sedentary lifestyle on the archipelago. So joining with the Sky Knights gave her an opportunity to go out and explore and make use of her interest in her people's natural predilection for scouting and travel. And kind of some cool things about her is she rides a snowy owl. And so the idea is she can kind of, she's small in stature. I'm assuming her owl would be smaller than, say, Kate's. And it would blend in with the clouds. So she could easily kind of go through unspotted kind of during the day. I might need some tweaking around that, but that's kind of the overall concept.
That is awesome. Although, this is the owl that I have.
Well, you got to get a white one then.
Mm-hmm.
Open up Photoshop and,
There, that's with a white tint. That's not very effective. Yeah, maybe we'll figure that out. That's awesome, though. Okay, very cool. Could you spell her name for me, please?
Yes, it's Calluna. Kaluna. It's actually a type of flower.
Okay, Kaluna. Very cool. All right. Awesome. Well, I would say that 6 players is a lot, but my other game has 8 to sometimes 9. So, this game will require a certain amount of higher expectations from you guys, because you're essentially going to be running your own character plus your mount. But I'm not worried about that because you're all pretty familiar with Dungeons and Dragons, and I think it will work out great. So, this is the right group to be doing this. So we have Sir Iendo, Sir Pate, Sir Zanzorin, Sir Reet, an unnamed so far Tiefling Wizard Enchanter, Sir Tiefling Wizard Enchanter, and Sir Kaluna. Welcome. Alright. So, now that we've established who you all are, let's talk a little bit about expectations for the game. So you don't have to answer right now, but although you're welcome to. But over the course of our chit-chat, this session 0, it would be great if you guys came up with each of you, if you happen to have one thing that you definitely want to see in the game, and maybe one thing that you definitely don't want to see. And that'll help us all kind of get on the same page, even if we don't agree, we can discuss it. And I can say that one thing I definitely want to see in the game is everybody get real interested in kind of treating this, the Sky Knights and the whole world as like a real thing, and kind of caring about your characters and relationships with people, and whether they live or die and that kind of thing, and actually it mattering to people. And that's a high bar. That usually doesn't happen right away, but I'm hoping that we achieve that in this campaign. That's one thing I definitely really want to see. And one thing I don't want to see in this campaign is very much inter-party conflict. Or is it intra? I can never remember the difference. Conflict within the party. You guys are knights, and the concept of the game, it's you're noble. You may disagree, but you are definitely on the same side. So even if you guys have warlocks and rogues, and I'm sure some of you are lawful, but I don't think that it would ever. I don't really want to see. I'm not really interested in the story where this particular group of knights squabbles amongst each other. But that's one thing I really don't want to see much of in this game. I don't think that it's gonna suit the game super well, and not all of us know each other super well, and I think that would be awkward anyway. So that is one thought that I have, and feel free to chime in at any point, even if you need to interrupt me, because otherwise I will just keep talking.
Well, I will go ahead and say that one of the things that definitely really interests me about this game in this setting is mounted combat and just the logistics of aerial fighting, because mounted combat in itself is something that you almost never see in D&D.
Yeah.
And so I'm really excited to be able to see the kinds of stuff that we can do once we make that a core part of the game.
Totally.
Yeah. Corey, did you have a don't want to see to go along with that? Or?
Maybe not yet.
Not really anything specific.
Okay.
I mean, I'm generally pretty easygoing in that regard.
I have a don't want to see, or at least a I hope not to see, Max.
Yeah.
You can obviously have the final word here, but some people like to run D&D as a simulation of reality, to the point where the weight of coins matter, and I find that really annoying.
That is a really good thing to know.
Yeah.
Actually, because that's one of the things that is on my agenda to talk about tonight is, tracking that kind of thing.
And like days since we've eaten, and the fact that sleeping in armor sucks, and all that. I've played in a campaign like that, and I'll do it again if that's what you want. But my preference is that we focus on the fun part of D&D.
Okay.
On the other hand, I mean, I have to say, so if we're venturing out from this main archipelago, days of food you take with you matter, right?
Yeah, if we can make it fun, but when it's only penalties, it's
Sure, but I could see there being a survival aspect and that being part of the the challenge.
Well, in that same regard, do we care about the idea of how many bolts do you have?
Yeah.
Which I think is actually a fair thing to track, because
yeah, I think that's totally fair. But the fact that we're carrying around 200 gold pieces and that has a certain amount of weight, and now everyone in the party is slowed because of it,
I think it's possible to strike a balance between, Lindsay had brought up, if we're traveling out somewhere where we don't have immediate access to easy resources, it's important to track the fact that, that reality.
Yeah.
But if we're closer to a place where, you know, it's feasible that we could, you know, resupply relatively easily, maybe not stress about it quite as much, you know, kind of find that half and half.
I think you will find that I have a good system for this. Interestingly, in my other campaign, the Wildlands campaign, that kind of stuff matters, and I have a whole subset of rules that are very.
You can make it fun.
I'm fairly confident that it is fun, but I think actually in this game we're not going to worry about it as much. So
to a limited extent, like pack animals. Right?
I think it is in the spirit of the Sky Knights campaign to worry about that kind of thing less, and just assume everyone has a magic backpack that you don't have to really dig around in to find one of the 100 things you happen to be carrying. There's just very simple rules for that in 5e already, with weight and such, and we're just going to apply that. Since you brought up weight and sleeping in armor specifically, I'll just quickly mention that we're just going to go by a what feels right kind of idea. So, you know, your mounts are flying, which means that as opposed to like a horse, they're not really going to be, you know, quadrupling their carrying capacity, etc. And we're just going to assume that your mounts can carry, you know, your armor, your stuff, and it's only going to be a problem if, you know, you pick up, you're like, oh, I found a really fancy armoire, you know, then we might have to figure something out, right?
Guys, we gotta bring this
we gotta bring this. Yeah, carpet is fine, probably.
What do you mean we don't need a full adamantium wagon that we can carry all our stuff?
Okay, cool. That is actually a great thing to mention, Matt. Thank you.
So I actually have something I'd like to kind of throw in the ring, and
Sure.
Being the Dragon Rider, this may come back to bite me, like literally. But this is my kind of I want to see and don't want to see, and I don't think this is going to be an issue, but I love campaigns, especially campaigns like this, where, you know, we're in an unknown land, we're, you know, struggling to survive and stuff like that. Like, I like there to be a genuine sense of danger where we could actually die. Like, I don't like it when I can understand fluffing things on occasion, but if there's no actual risk of, you know, our characters being killed or something horrible happening, it kind of detracts from the adventure aspect, at least for me. So, you know, keep things lethal. You know, we're not looking to ruin anybody's fun, but, you know, if there's no sense of like imminent actual danger, it's kind of like.
So, Josh, your one thing that you definitely want to see in the game is people die.
Max, you cut out. Are you still there?
Oh man, I was making a joke and everything. I said the one thing Josh wants to see is somebody dies.
Apparently. He hasn't watched our other episodes, has he?
Right, that's true.
Yes, the last campaign ended very badly. Well,
I shouldn't say it was bad.
It was awesome. But...
Yeah, that's true. It was awesome. But like the corollary to that is, so we all know that it's dangerous and everything, but let's not be trekking every door for traps and being averse to action. We're heroic knights. Like, we charge into danger head first, you know, to some extent. Like,
absolutely. And I think this kind of,
you know, we need to lean into that. Yeah, it's dangerous, but we're doing it anyway.
Right. And I think that goes hand in hand with the concept that, you know, if we want to treat this like, you know, the actual world that we're living in, you know, this is what we've been training for the past, you know, near decades.
Right. We signed up for this to an extent, you know.
Yeah, I think there's a certain amount of player buy-in, but I certainly won't object if you guys are searching every door for traps. I think that might be wise. You know,
wink.
Yeah, I was gonna say a little foreshadowing.
What I think might be a better example, and correct me if I'm wrong, but maybe if you are going to be haggling over every copper piece, that might not be as some are want to do, and it's fine if you want to be that kind of a character, but that might not be in the spirit of the game, unless that's like, you know, a really core part of your character, in which case all the expected rules about grabbing the spotlight in any D&D game apply, which is that it's fine sometimes, but if you do it all the time, you're kind of being a douchebag.
Yeah, so that's a thing we don't want to see. Douchebags.
Okay, cool.
Could I add one more?
Yeah, please.
So something I'd really like to see is that the mounts are more than just, you know, a way of getting from point A to point B. That either we have some emotional connection to them, or there's some occasional conflict regarding them, or something of interest, you know, such that, like I said, they're more than just, you know, my pack mule. I think would be really interesting.
All right. Well, in that case, let's move on to the next thing. And we'll talk about the movement rules for flying mounts and their use in combat. And I will say that at some point before the night is out, probably once we're done talking about this section, everybody's going to get to roll one upgrade for their mount. So your mount, Beffin, will have one unique thing, one special thing about him that no other giant snowy owl has.
Cool.
Okay, so hopefully everybody is in Roll20 and looking at this, because I'm going to explain now about how to use your mount in combat and our special rules for that. So because this game is really all about being a Sky Knight and being this badass with this special flying mount, there are some. It seems only right that there would be some special rules associated with handling that. So if you look over here at this giant bat and rider, actually probably this is Reet, because I have a giant bat rider token, so I'm friggin' gonna use it.
I'm okay with this.
Is it Reet or Riat?
I'm going with Reet, so...
Oh no, I think the baby woke up. Sorry. Okay, you're going with Reet. Alright, thanks, Kate. My wonderful wife's going to go deal with the goblin that just woke up, as opposed to the goblin on the back of the bat. Which is unfortunate, because I'm explaining this, but I'll explain this again to her later. Okay, so if everybody's looking at Reet, okay, on the screen. So the way this works is, you on the back of your mount have a flying speed. The mount has a flying speed, and the way mounted rules work in 5e are it takes half your movement to get on the back of the mount, and then the mount can move, and when you're dismounting, you can do that and then move, but you can't move, get on the mount, and then get off the mount and move. And there's a few more rules about mounting and dismounting, but we don't have to worry about them just this minute. And so if you click, okay, I'm going to have to give people control over a creature in order to do this. But basically, does everybody see a yellow line coming out of the bat token?
I do not.
Yeah, no, I see the bat token, but no lines.
No.
Okay. Actually,
There we go. I just saw it
Okay.
for a second.
You only saw it for a second.
Oh, saw that.
Yeah. So the way that works, Max, is that it shows you what movement you're doing, and then once you settle it, then it shows the rest of us, very briefly.
Okay. Well, that's fine. So if you go to the left-hand side, if you guys don't know about the ruler, you can use the ruler. Everybody should see that.
Yep.
Okay. So if I move this bat a certain amount of feet, I can do this, and then I can right-click to set a waypoint and make a turn. So the special rules for mounts, for flying mounts in our game, is that your turns are somewhat restricted. And this is meant to model the fact that, like in real life, when you're flying, you have some momentum. You can't just stop and do a U-turn and go back the other way and do a U-turn and go back the other way, unless you're like an insect or something that doesn't have very much momentum and has a certain way that it flies. But most big flying creatures are not going to be able to do that. So you can unless your mount gets upgraded, okay, you can make one turn during your move. So if I'm moving as Reet right here, what's the giant bat's speed? Is it 60 feet flying? You guys will know your own mount's speed, but it is fly 60 feet, yes. So he can move, right, 22 feet right there, and then finish his move, make a turn, and finish his move, say, over here, right? So I'm measuring it out so that you can see it. Finishes his move over here, having moved 41.7 feet. And, I should mention, we're not playing on a grid, if that wasn't obvious. So for this campaign, we are leaving the grid behind for the purpose of this. Now, if I give you guys control over one of these things, so Reet should have control over the Reet right now. I'm going to give Matt control over this hawk here.
The one that looks like it was drawn in crayon.
Well, do you want the hawk or do you want the eagle that looks good?
I'll take the hawk. It looks noticeably different than the others.
Well, I told you I was going to look for a hawk token.
Yep, you did.
Corey already knows how to do this, but I'm just going to give him control over the griffin. And Josh, you are going to get control over the bronze dragon.
Also, that's a hippogriff, just so you know. The one that you gave me.
This is a hippogriff?
Yep. See the horseback?
Oh. There's the griffin.
There's a griffin.
There was some confusion at the stable. Sorry, buddy.
Okay. All right, good. So you're able to turn them. That's important to note. So you can make one turn during your movement, and you have a minimum turn distance. So you have to fly a certain number of feet before you can actually turn. And that distance, unless your mount is upgraded, gets upgraded, is 15 feet.
Okay. And how far can we turn? Like, or 90 degrees?
Yep, 90 degrees.
Okay. Cool.
So again, keeping it very simple, it's basically, for those of you who know what this means, it's Battlefleet Gothic Light.
So we have to move 15 feet forward to then make a 90-degree turn, is that right?
A turn up to 90 degrees, yes.
Up to 90 degrees, but it doesn't
Yeah.
cost actual movement to make the turn?
No.
Okay.
Good question. Okay. So, for those of you who are unfamiliar with this, who did I give control of the giant owl to? Nobody?
Nobody. That was supposed to be for me.
Okay. So...
How are you moving it and getting the ruler at the same time?
If you press, or if you click and drag to start the movement, and then press Q on your keyboard, then it'll get the ruler.
Actually, Q is the old way. So now it's right click.
Okay. Nice.
So for those of you who didn't follow that, you can click the guy, click and hold, move them, some amount of distance to say your first turn, and then right click while still holding, and then you'll see the line pop up. Okay? And then if you want to do a turn, you can right click again to mark a point, and then that'll anchor it, and you can move the guy further, and it'll measure the total move, including from that point, and then you can release, and then you can turn the guy in the correct direction. Now, you may notice that there is a certain amount of imprecision here. This is because you are all noble knights, and I expect you to act honorably. Ooh, did Q just let you do that? Show the yellow line?
The line I'm showing right now?
Yeah, the one you did, Matt.
No, I did that with right click.
Okay.
Note that holding right click does weird scrolling things, so don't hold right click, just tap it.
Right. Cool, because it actually showed us exactly how your guy moved.
It didn't actually do the move, though.
It looked like it worked on my screen.
Okay. No, I get what it did. Never mind.
Okay. Yay. So, Kate, are you there? I don't know. I think she's still with the baby. Alright. Giving her control of the other owl. Alright. So, you guys are. I am not going to have an argument with you. Unless it's really egregious that there's some kind of, unless it's really obvious there's some kind of misunderstanding. I don't want to have an argument with you guys about, like, this specific, like, did you turn, like, exactly correct? Did you move, like, to the millimeter correctly? We're going to use, like, tabletop wargaming rules. Like, it's like, I'm just going to use the honor system here. Because you are honorable knights, and I'm just going to trust that you guys are going to move as precisely as you can, and as fairly as you can, within the limits of human error, etc. You may wonder about how we're modeling height. In which case, all I can say is, this guy is far away. And as he circles around and rises, now he's close.
How you do?
Which is to say, you can generally fly through enemies, and by through I mean across their tokens. Generally speaking, because it's pretty trivial to maneuver, above or below somebody, at least within a certain limit. And as part of the setting, you're generally going to be within a certain region, a certain pretty big region of several hundred vertical feet, because there's this kind of ecliptic, as it were, where the floating archipelago mostly exists. There's a few outliers, like way higher up or way lower down. But in those regions, outside of that kind of ecliptic, there's these terrible winds that make flying or even living on such an island somewhat difficult. Okay, so generally speaking, unless you're trying to be sneaky or do something, or there's some special reason, you are going to be within a certain vertical range. Does that make sense to everybody?
Yeah,
Yep.
for sure.
Now,
one other question that I had about the kind of BFG style movement. Are we going to
Yeah.
have a minimum number of feet that we have to move every turn?
yes, because in order to stay airborne, you generally have to move forward, unless you are flying via magic. Now, in certain cases, there may be magic assisted, but the fly spell lets you. There's something called hover, which is the ability that lets you stay in one spot, but that's generally not going to be the case for you guys, and that is also going to be 15 feet. So minimum, you must move at least 15 feet, and 15 feet is the minimum turn distance. Now that can change if your guy gets upgraded. But it's pretty simple and straightforward to understand, hopefully.
Alright, awesome.
Cool. And of course, we may need to adjust this because these are untested rules in D&D, so it may need to adjust. I may say, you know what, it needs to be 20 feet or whatever. But we'll figure that out pretty quick, I imagine. Okay. Please, anyone feel free to interrupt if you think of something you want to mention, or you have a question. Because if you don't interrupt, I'm just going to keep talking. Oh, yes, one thing I should mention is you notice this owl and rider here I'm moving together. So that's how I'm going to set up you guys as well. We're going to pick tokens for your characters, and then I'm going to put them on, except for Reet, who is special because he has a guy riding on a bat token, so we're going to use it. Most of the we're going to kind of set it up so that you can have your token as well as the token of the mount, and they'll be kind of tied together. So unless you specifically try to separate them, they should be able, pretty convenient to move together at the same time.
One quick thing, Max. I noticed I'm able to control the bat for some reason. So
probably because I marked as all players instead of just Dave or something. Not going to worry about it right now. Oh, that's because that's because of certain settings that I'll have to update after tonight's session. Okay. Actually, remind me. Because before I invited you
by moving his bat.
No, basically, I set all the character before I invite you guys to the game. I set the characters to anyone can control that character, so that you can log in and change your character, and then after you have been invited to the game, then I can go back and change it to only you can control your own character. So that's why that is. So remind me to change that. Okay. So we've talked about movement. We've talked about how you can upgrade your mount's maneuverability. Let's get to rolling upgrades. Although one quick note, you will notice that actually that's irrelevant. Never mind. Who wants to get an upgrade to their mount?
Me.
Absolutely.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, Lindsay said me first, so we're going to start on that side. So Lindsay, go ahead and roll a D100. And this is on the Giant Owl upgrade chart, for those of you who recall.
I guess the early bird gets the worm.
Now, if only I can remember how to roll.
Okay, so it's /roll, or /r, space, 1D, number 1, D100. 26.
Sounds good.
You get stealth +3.
Holy shit!
Wow.
Woohoo!
Very nice. So your giant snowy owl, because he is the same color as the clouds,
Obviously.
Fuck yeah.
gets the is unique in this manner. All right, so this should work. Okay, hang on. Can be edited and controlled by Lindsay. Oh, whoops. Nope, not that, not that. I did the wrong one. So scratch that. Okay. Alright. So, now I've done it correctly. Alright, so you should see in the main NPCs copy of Giant Owl, Lindsay. And if you open that up, you should be able to go to its character sheet, and you should, in theory, be able to edit its stealth bonus. So it now has a +7 stealth.
Holy cannoli. Okay.
That is a lot of stealth.
He's a very quiet owl.
He's a good boy.
All right. Princess Kate, are you back? Not yet. Man, that goblin of ours. Okay. Dave, would you like to get a upgrade to your giant bat?
Always. Is that a D100? You said?
It is a D100. Some practice stealth rolls.
It's a stealthy D100.
Looks like still a +4 though.
How do you roll again? Is it dice?
Well, do you want to use the dice or the? If you mouse over the dice to on the top left, you'll see there's a D100. That you can just click on. Really easily. Or you can type /roll space
I never even
1D100.
noticed this before.
Yeah, I've never seen that menu before either.
Pretty great. It's pretty convenient. Okay, 69. You got a new trick.
Nice.
So your giant bat has learned the follow someone trick. Congratulations.
What does that do?
That means you can. Did you name your giant bat yet?
I have not. I should do.
Okay, that's fine. So you can point your giant bat at somebody and say follow them. It could be follow you. It could be follow that car. Follow that. Follow. It could be follow an enemy. Although they might notice him, etc. But yeah, you can.
We don't actually have character sheets for these, though, right? So
I am giving you one right now. You see how Lindsay just rolled giant stealth for her, or giant stealth, rolled stealth for her giant owl a bunch of times. I will give you your mount right now. Lindsay, did you have trouble finding a copy of Giant Owl under main NPCs?
No, I found it and I did edit it successfully as far as I could see.
Okay. Can you change the name or do I have to do that?
Ooh, let me see.
You should be able to change the name. I'm going to give Dave a giant bat now, so he can give it a new ability called Trick Follow Someone or something like that. I just have to duplicate my giant bat. Oh, it's Bethan.
What did you think it was?
I heard that is F, not a TH. So I thought it was Beffin. A much sillier name. Okay. Alright, and where's Dave? Dave. No. Did I click Dave? Dave. Okay, so Dave, you should see a copy of Giant Bat under main NPCs. So that is under your control. You should be able to edit him and write down his new trick as an ability. Oh, our poor little goblin is having a hard time going to sleep. Okay. Who's up next? Zanzorin. Sir Zanzorin, would you like to get a free upgrade? Now, oh yes, that's right. You have a dragon.
Oh god, here we go.
So, your dragon comes with... I just want to note, he comes with one upgrade.
Ooh.
Already, because he is a wormling, but he has a size upgrade. He is large, so he can carry a medium-sized mount.
Well, that's going to come in handy when I try and ride him.
He's a big boy.
So is Wormling like, I guess, freshly hatched? I'm not
Yeah.
entirely sure how the progression works with dragon.
That is correct. Freshly hatched. And normally they are medium-sized. But
Mine ate his Wheaties, I guess. I like it.
exactly. Hang on.
Eat his Wheaties or eat his elves.
Hey, look, you don't need to make this any harder for me than it's about to be, okay? He probably ate his last 3 riders, and that's why he's so big and ready for me.
That sounds right.
Okay.
So does this mean I don't roll on the table now?
I was gonna say you don't, but that seems lame. Go ahead and roll.
Sweet.
What did he get?
17.
17. Stealth +2.
Cool.
So you can name your dragon mount. I mean, you know, he is an NPC, but go ahead and name him. Although I may change the name. I'm more likely to change the name of your dragon than.
That's fine. In all honesty, you can just go ahead and take care of the naming part since he's kind of an autonomous thing, unless you really want me.
Okay.
He
I'll.
chose his own name.
Yeah, maybe.
Alright, I named my bat too.
Awesome. Snaggletooth.
Yes.
Nice. Okay, so you should see a copy of Bronze Dragon Wormling in the main NPCs, Josh.
Yep.
So you should be able to open that up and give him +2 stealth. Because
5 stealth dragon just seems odd. Like, I don't really picture a dragon being stealthy, but I'm going to
Especially
make
'cause he's
this...
extra big.
well, he is good at hiding.
Everyone just assumes they can't possibly be seeing a dragon. Where
Yeah, he just blends in so well with the sky, it's just, you know...
All right. And Corey.
Alrighty. That is an 84.
All right. So you are riding a griffin. 84. New trick, follow someone.
Cool.
So now to keep this going, I have to get a bonus to stealth, I think.
That's right. To keep the pattern going. That's pretty funny. There's only one, entry for follow someone on...
Different numbers, too.
They're different. Well, yes, because the Griffin has multiple attacks, and it's kind of attack-focused anyway. They're different. They're very... The Griffin and the giant bat are very different.
The good news is that we can send them out together now, so they have backup.
Even they follow each other in a circle.
That's how they learned.
Absolutely.
I mean, I see for a caster, depending on how much concentration it takes to actually change your bat's direction, it could be pretty useful if I'm concentrating.
Yeah. Just set them to follow one of us home, and then you can go to sleep.
That's pretty funny. I would say the Sky Knights do not advise falling asleep on top of your flying mount over who knows how high above the ground. Alright, so Corey, you should see a copy of Griffin appearing in the main NPCs that you can edit.
Yep, I've got it.
Okay. And Matt, what is your upgrade?
81.
81 on the Giant Hawk. Alright. That's not going to be a stealth bonus. AC +2.
Sweet.
Nice.
Very nice.
How does that work? Does it have thick skin? Does it have armor?
Yeah, I mean, basically it's...
I was gonna say it could be a dexterity-based thing.
Maybe it's
just
a training
really
thing.
agile.
Yeah, no, I like that a lot. That fits with like wood elfiness.
Yeah, it just has good reflexes when it comes to avoiding attacks. That makes total sense. Someone fires an arrow at it, and just beats its wings, and the wind blows the arrow.
That does sound like an overpowered wood elf thing to do.
So does Roll20 by default just roll two d20s and you just pick the left one if it's just not disadvantage?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, you can tell I haven't played D&D on here in a long time.
I've never played D&D on here, so this is all new to me.
Oh, that's true. You've played in on Roll20, but not D&D.
I played Roll20 other games. I played D&D at a table, but I've never played D&D on.
That's wild. You are not getting the experience of using the grid on here.
Yeah, that's fine. I've played tabletop D&D without a grid too. So.
There you go. All right. Andy, you should see a copy of Giant Eagle appearing in the main NPCs. And it looks like Lilith, Kate, made it back.
Yep.
All right, cool. So, Kate, try moving the owl on the right-hand side. Sweet.
Looks like it worked.
Alright, so I will explain this to you in greater detail after the stream, because I already went through it once. But basically, your movement while flying, in order to make it feel like you're controlling this powerful flying mount, you're going to have a minimum distance that you have to do in order to make one turn on to turn your mount in the sky, and I'll show you how to do that. But basically, it's clicking and holding and right-clicking to make a waypoints appear on Roll20. All right.
Got it.
Okay. But we'll go over that in more detail. For now, how would you like to get a free upgrade for your giant owl?
Yeah, sure.
Upon receiving your mount and both of you becoming a full-fledged Sky Knight unit, your mount levels up. So roll a D100.
$83.
83. Oh. You got better maneuvering. +1 turn. So, everybody but you can only turn their mounts once while moving, whereas you can turn twice.
Oh, that's nice.
Pretty cool.
Yeah, that's an awesome upgrade.
All right. Well.
Alright. We can't follow Lilith anymore. Or Lilith.
You can't follow what? Oh, follow her?
Yeah, we can't follow Lilith because she turns more than we can.
Yeah. In the game of Follow the Leader, she can, do all kinds of crazy maneuvers that none of the rest of you can. All right. Awesome. Okay, folks. Well, there's really just one more thing, one more new mechanic to go over. Oh, no, wait. I have to give Kate her owl. So before we move on. Kate, I'm going to give you your giant owl. which is like going to have an NPC stats, and then you are going to be able to go in and edit him and give him the maneuvering +1 turn special ability.
Alright.
Alright, and I keep having to adjust the volume because I've listened to thousands of songs on here, guys, in order to put all the music together, so some of them have to adjust the volume. Okay, so Kate, you should see a copy of Giant Owl. If you look in the journal, appearing in the main NPCs folder.
I see the copy of Giant Owl. Oh, there's the character.
In retrospect, I probably should have named the mount. I should have had the mounts folder be the one where your guys' mounts were. I'll change that later. I think I can rename it. Yeah, I can rename it. I'll change it from main NPCs to mounts. Okay, cool. Yoki. Very cool. All right. So, there's one other special mechanic that is probably worthy of going over right now. And that is, now that you guys are Sir Knights, fully fledged with your mounts to soar high in the skies of the floating archipelago, you can, you have an honor score. So let's talk about honor.
Can we turn down the music a little?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. So honor is essentially kind of like reputation plus. It is how honored you are as a Sky Knight. So it is possible, so somebody who has served the Sky Knights for a long time, rescued many fair gentlemen from the clutches of beautiful dragons. Someone who has done great deeds in the wars of the Gurian Dominion, someone who has protected the small folk and outlying farms, someone who has faced terrible evil, someone who has overcome great dangers, someone who has got a really good PR guy, will have a high honor within the Sky Knights. And if you go onto your character sheet, not your mounts, there's the resources that you can add. That's on the right-hand side of the character sheet. And for those of you who have already created your characters, because I don't want you to mess up your charactermancer if you haven't already done that, you can go right ahead and go in there and add an other resource, which is also useful for lots of things, but this one's going to be called Honor. And set that to 5. Now we may adjust this slightly based on your I'm sorry, not 5, 4. We may adjust this slightly based on your backstory. But essentially, you start with an honor of 4, and this functions. This is a little like another. This is a resource, okay? So honor will go up and down throughout the game. So if your mount dies, if you violate some of the oaths of the Sky Knights and people find out about it, your honor could take a hit. Okay? And why does that matter? Or if you, I guess, to offer the opposite example, if you guys rescue some important person from danger, and they honor you in public and give you a medal, then your honor could get a big boost and go up. This is important because there are certain times in the game, certain benefits you can get by using your honor. And essentially, you'll roll a d20 and add your honor score in order to accomplish something. So this could be, this would be something like requisitioning special materials from the Sky Knights, which is an organization that is vast in scope and respect, bigger than the Girian Dominion. People have heard of the Sky Knights who have never heard of the Girian Dominion. You are simply the your country is your home, and of course it is honorable, though not one of the oaths of the Sky Knights, to be patriotic. Important distinction there. Because that would be kind of a political issue within the Sky Knights. Patriotism for the Dominion would be something that certainly your superiors, certainly the people at the top of the Girian Sky Knights would want you to have, is a love of country. But that isn't one of your oaths. But it can get you honor, nonetheless. So you might requisition special materials from the Sky Knights to accomplish some important task, some important quest. And you might or might not be granted those materials or those resources based on your honor. So you would make a d20 roll and add your honor score to see if it is granted to you. Other things might include will people listen to you? Like if two sky farmers on some remote floating island are fighting over a windmill, and you want to come in and kind of resolve their differences, will they listen to you? Well, it might be partly a function of your charisma, but really, you would use your charisma to kind of be persuasive, right? And make a good argument for who should own the windmill, or should they split the profits of the windmill 50-50 or something.
Cut the windmill in half.
Cut the windmill in half, right? That would be using your charisma. But why should they listen to you, right? Should they care what you have to say at all? You get a certain amount of cachet just being a Sky Knight, but how much weight they add to your words, that's an honor roll. So anything that is kind of reputation based can be an honor roll, and it can get you all kinds of benefits. Having a really high honor, you could be granted a title, you could be granted land. You could get your own castle if you have a crazy high honor, and the Girian Dominion wishes to kind of secure your loyalty and sees benefit to having you rise in the world. So all kinds of things can be affected by your honor roll. Any questions?
That sounds awesome. One thing I'm curious about is, like, is honor on a scale? Is it just like added to a d20 roll? Is that, or like, I'm just wanting to get a frame of reference of what 4 honor means.
4 honor is pretty high.
Okay.
It's added to a d20 roll.
Gotcha.
Cool. As a squire in the Sky Knights, you maybe had a 1. Mm-hmm. Now that you're a full-fledged Sky Knight, it's going to be set to 4, but we may alter that based on your background.
Cool.
Because you may say, well, I did a bunch of dishonorable stuff, or I wasn't well looked upon, and we may say, you may say, can I get some kind of, like, benefit from that? And I'll say, all right, since it's such an interesting story, we'll kind of balance that out a little bit. Or you might want to say, like, yeah, I'm from a noble family, and very important. So can I boost my honor a little bit? And I'll say yes, but that's going to come with certain responsibilities and divided loyalties, and you may have a new factor to consider when dealing with people. So we may shift that, but the baseline is going to be 4 for a newly graduated Sky Knight.
Awesome.
All right. Well, that's about it, guys. I guess one other thing is it would be cool if in your backstory, so if you guys decide to write up a backstory, I will give you a secret that no one else knows based on your backstory. And it would also be cool if you want to, if you had one really close contact, like a good friend or family member, and maybe one enemy that you've made at some point in the past. But I'm not going to enforce that super hard. So if people, if you are like, I don't really have anything that makes me happy, then that's okay. I'm not going to force you to be creative. But that would be a cool thing, and certainly give you some hooks into the world and possibly some other resources as well. All right. Well, I'm going to open this up if you guys have any other questions or thoughts you want to discuss.
I have all sorts of questions about, like, the world and the immediate, like, where we were training, what our base of operations, like, do you have a whole bunch of, like, material that you want to just send us, or do you want us to ask questions constantly?
I will be sending you more material. I know I've only just begun to give you some of the...
life to live, and I get that. I'm asking what your preference is for delivery.
I mean, questions are great. I'm never going to mind questions. That is... Yeah, go ahead.
So one that's high on my list right now, we have kind of an interesting mixture of races.
Yeah.
And I'd like to understand, like, how the people in whatever town, city, wherever our base of operations is, like, how did it, like, what is the makeup of that populace, and how do they feel about elves and, whatnot?
Thanks for the Prime subscription, Fox Axes. You're an awesome friend. So, the Girian Dominion, and especially the island... I'm going to send you guys a map. Okay?
Awesome.
I have already mapped out your island. I'm just still working out some of the surroundings. Some of the immediate surroundings. But before you were blown out of alignment by the Dark Wind Tempest, although I have to say Zanzorin called it the Black Wind in his... is Zanzorin male?
Yes.
In Zanzorin's, in his backstory, he called it the Black Wind. And I was like, oh, that's really cool, too. So maybe some people call it the Black Wind, some people call it the Dark Wind. The Dark Wind Tempest blew you guys out of alignment. There were all kinds of sky lanes that crossed this area, and it's a very multicultural kind of place. Now, that's not true of all islands. In fact, that's not true of most islands. Most of the surrounding islands now are smaller, it seems. Broken off pieces, perhaps, of some larger structures, or that's how they were formed. And most of these islands have a kind of homogeneous culture on them, a monoculture. They're usually so small that they can only support 1 to, maybe 10 families on them. So it would only make sense that there would be, there's the Wood Elf Island, and there's the Dwarf Island, and then there's another, Hill Dwarf Island, and then there's a Mountain Dwarf Island, or Shield Dwarf, whatever they are. So that is, often, like, when you go to an island, it will, generally speaking, if it's small, have, like, a single culture or race on it. That's not always true, and it's certainly not true of your home. So does that make sense?
Yeah, and so, is like the whole island like basically one? It's like the size of a country, right? So are we in a town? Are we in a capital city?
Well, I will show you guys the map. I don't have it ready to go yet, because like I said, I was still working out some of the stuff. But yeah, it's kind of, it's a few days flight across.
Right, the part I'm actually more interested in is, tell me about the area surrounding our, what do we have, a castle?
So, yeah, there's a Sky Knight's Tower, which is a really big tower that's kind of on one end of the Girian Dominion home island. And there's a kind of a central metropolis that's actually technically its own island that's kind of surrounded by the rest in this crescent, and attached by these huge chain bridges.
Huge what? Sorry.
Yeah, sorry, you cut out.
These huge chains hold the central... Really, it's a separate island, although it's considered part of the same structure. The central metropolis, where like the royal family is and all the courtiers, etc.
Cool.
And there's these huge chains, just tremendously massive, beyond belief, that kind of, are miles and miles and miles long, that hold that central island kind of attached to the mainland. And there are various castles and forts and towns, like farming villages, on the mainland.
somewhere on the mainland as well? Are we remote, would you say?
The Sky Knight's tower is on one end of the mainland. It'll be clear when I show you the map.
Okay, that's fine. I'm just trying to picture it.
I like I said, it's not. It's like 90% ready. It's not quite ready for me to show, but I will show that to you soon, and then you can have all that info. Would you have any other questions that you wanted answering in terms of thinking about your character?
Well, so you said it was like kind of a metropolis. I forget which word you used.
There's a central metropolis. There's a central capital city.
Before the Tempest.
Oh,
it
yeah.
was a very multicultural kind of place.
Yeah.
How were people traveling between islands when they aren't Sky Knights?
There is airships.
Okay. Okay.
Airships and hot air balloons, and there are flying people. Have access to like flying ferries between islands.
Okay.
I meant that in the FERRIES.
Nope, totally heard the other thing.
Although Faye may make an appearance.
Just get yourself like 300 ferries. And,
Kate like hates Faye because of what I've done to her, so.
Accurate.
I have a question.
Sure.
So other than the Tempest and kind of the mystery surrounding that, can you talk some more about the main antagonist?
Interesting question.
So gravity, for one.
Gravity for one, for sure. I'm gonna say you've got to figure that out from the clues, which I will say are in there in the initial campaign paragraph, as well as in the full campaign intro, which, by the way, is also on Roll20 as well as on our Discord.
Got it.
That, I think, is an in-character concept. But you will be interacting with pirates and monsters.
Yeah, so that also kind of ties into one of the questions that I was going to have, which was, we talked a little bit about what my character would have done in the military before the Darkwind Tempest, but after the Darkwind Tempest, what kind of role did the military have? Were there enemy forces? Like, is there another nation nearby? Or are they mostly just dealing with, like, pirates and collateral damage and trying to kind of keep the peace?
Sorry, was that before the Darkwind Tempest or after?
After. Like,
So-
I know before they were kind of in an on-again, off-again war with I forget their name, but the dynasty.
Yes. After, you guys have yet to discover any nearby large, powerful organizations. The Gurian Dominion was fortunate in that it did not has not had to deal with any major attacks in the last decade. Which has allowed them to rebuild after widespread destruction due to the Tempest.
Cool.
And it has been fairly easy for the Gurian Dominion to establish control over the new nearby islands, the new neighbors. Because they have a large military that is well organized and well trained, and they also, like, the Dominion offers a lot of benefits for joining. They're not, they're not like brutal conquerors laying waste and, using stuff up in their path. They kind of, as they, the policy is to kind of bring people under the wing and make them loyal citizens. So there's a certain amount of fighting, but usually it's followed by a swift indoctrination. Assimilation.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Good to know.
I will say that the peoples who have recently come under your control, they have, by all reports that you've heard, or if you've met any of them, or maybe you are one of them, you've never heard of the Girian Dominion before. Or they haven't heard of the Girian Dominion. Actually, no, I want you all to be from here in some fashion, prior to the Tempest. Yeah. So, scratch what I said about maybe you're from a new neighbor. You're not. But none of them have heard of the Girian Dominion before. Yeah, but they are part of the kind of broader archipelago culture, in that they understand the use of sky metal, which is kind of the ore that lets these islands float.
Okay.
And
even if they weren't familiar with the Girian Dominion, were they familiar with the Sky Knights?
they are.
Okay.
So there have been Sky Knights here sometime in the past century.
Okay.
And people know of them and have a certain amount of respect inherent to this noble order of knights that they know, even if they don't necessarily agree with you or your country of origin. They will have a certain amount of respect for the knights. They know that you are sworn to protect the weak.
Okay. Awesome.
So I kind of have a mechanical question.
Sure.
How does cover work in regards to being mounted and a Y and a Z axis and going up and down and stuff?
Good question. So like I said, I can make you bigger and smaller to show that you're near our camera or down below. But you do get certain mechanical benefits, or potential benefits from being higher up, because you can dive down and hit somebody harder. So there's like an ability that a mount can get, right? That gives you advantage on attacks for making like a dive attack, for example. I will mark that if it becomes something of a question, thusly. So this owl is up 100 feet.
Cool.
So
There are the
we're just going to pick sort of an arbitrary plane, right, which is like our baseline, and then we will just say you're up 100 feet from that or below, 50 feet from that, whatever. Make sense?
Can you guys see this 100 that I've added to my bird?
No.
show up. Okay.
Only
There's,
only
like,
the
little
GM and the person who
things.
controls it.
Oh, I can make that visible.
Because we could
I-
do that as well. We could just
No,
do, like,
there's a reason I don't want to. There's a reason I don't want to, and it's because when we do, you see this guy? You see what I'm paying?
Mm-hmm.
When we group them, that stuff doesn't work.
Oh, gotcha.
So if I'm going to put a rider on a mount and then make them, move together,
Okay. I only brought it up because I noticed when you moved him, the text didn't move with him.
yeah, the text didn't move. So it's an extra step. I just don't think, like, the height and the up and... Oh, and that's the other question that I wanted to mention. Josh?
Yes.
So, we will be... I forget what the word is. Fudging.
Firing?
Let's go with fudging. We will be fudging the hypotenuse. So if you're trying to figure out range, right, and somebody's like 100 feet above you, we're going to just ignore that. Unless it like really makes sense. We're gonna it's gonna be kind of notional, right? Like on our map, it's gonna be kind of like the horizontal versus verticality of things is gonna be kind of visually represented at the same time. So it's gonna be we're not gonna worry about it too much, basically.
Okay.
Unless it really becomes an issue.
Right. So, for example, if someone dives underneath an airship, and someone is above it, obviously there's, some stuff there, but otherwise it's just kind of like, we'll, kind of fudge.
Exactly.
And there will be times when we're over land and stuff, and it becomes more relevant. I mean, cover specifically, not the height thing.
Kenny, hi there. Says we need gliders, ornithopters, netting defenses, settlement vehicles, zip lines from islands close together, and air trolleys or floating bridges, clearly marked fly zones based around factions. Totally.
I just want to meet the guy that has to do the zip line from one island to another. Like,
That would be pretty terrifying.
Unfortunately, you need a lot of sky metal in order to float. Like, in order to support any weight. So really, it's restricted to large vehicles or islands. And if you start mining that stuff, usually that means that island drops out of the air.
So yeah, it's like, you mine a little bit, see how it's floating, mine a little bit more,
Mm-hmm.
and then you start mining really, really fast as soon as it starts to fall.
Well, basically the thing is it doesn't work like helium, where it's like, it'll like slowly descend like as the different forces. It's like once there's too little sky metal, it just drops.
So it's even more risky than normal mining.
You don't want to be the last guy.
Kenny points out some places should be about to fall or literally are resource dumped till it dies. Yes, that is a thing. But one of the oaths of the Sky Knights is to protect the floating archipelago from falling. All right.
Yeah, one more mechanical question about the combat. Are we changing anything about attacks of opportunity and stuff, given the forced movement, or is all that kind of stuff gonna still stay the same? So just attacks of opportunity will be a lot more frequent.
That stays the same, actually. Well, oh, I see what you're saying. It's also possible for you to become locked together and start falling. Because you will not be able to continue your move in order to stay airborne.
Okay. Cool.
And, I mean, once falling gets... I will say that if you fall, as can happen, you're going to start taking damage on the, I think the second or third round of falling, because the wind starts doing bludgeoning damage to you.
Wow.
So, don't fall.
Falling real bad.
Also,
Speaking of falling, I have a
yes.
question. Can you tell us a little bit about like the harness saddle system?
Yeah, so you have a special saddle that for your mount. So you need a griffin saddle to ride a griffin. You need a giant hawk saddle to ride a giant hawk. And your saddle is presented to you along with your mount as part of the ceremony when you become a full-fledged, when you are knighted. And there are certain items of gear that we can go into later, including like a tether to your saddle that can help you stay in it. There are certain issues with that though, because like if you do fall and the tether gets tangled up in your mount's wings, that could be a problem. And there's other certain special like gear for your mount that we can make up as we go, and that is one of the most important uses of your honor is requisitioning special gear like that, because it can be hard to get otherwise. Although mostly, once you are knighted and presented with your stuff, as a knight, you are expected to provide for yourself. You will be rewarded by the Sky Knights for completing your quests, and but you are expected to go out and find, take care of your mount, your own stuff, your own gear, but you can also requisition things. As Kenny points out, you have the guild system in effect, basically. Yeah, kinda. By the way, in case anyone's wondering, we've gone through all of the organized talking points for our session 0, and now I've just opened it up to questions. And once we run out of those, we're just going to end tonight's session. So it'll be a short one, but that's kind of expected.
Oh, I do have one more question.
Yeah.
The
Another question. Doesn't have to be your last one.
How rare are the mounts that we're using? Like, are these animals pretty common sight out in the wild, or are they like specifically bred by the Sky Knights, or is it, how does that work exactly?
They are rare. More common, I would say, than in a standard D&D setting like the Forgotten Realms. Because where else would these creatures live but the floating archipelago? But there are Eries, that the Sky Knights maintain. And actually, there's a temple or large shrine in the mountains on the Gurian Dominion's home island, where many of these creatures roost. Now, dragons are a little harder to come by. But it's certainly possible that but basically, the Sky Knights have to befriend dragons that are out somewhere out there, because there aren't any dragons living on the home island that we know of. So there are Eyries that they kind of maintain and have like a long-term relationship with, and establishing new sources of mounts, new Eyries, and new relationships with dragons that might be interested in a partnership with the Sky Knights is an important part of your job.
Very cool.
As Kenny points out, it seems like there's a lot because the Sky Knights are literally stationed right next to them. That would be accurate.
Sorry, you broke up through most of that. What did you say?
Kenny pointed out that you might feel like there's a lot of these creatures around because you live near their roosting grounds, and the Sky Knights are, the Sky Knight Tower is always full of them.
Yeah, that makes a certain amount of sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. All right. Any other thoughts, questions, things you want to see, things you don't want to see? Session 0 stuff?
None here.
I'm excited to get started.
Awesome. Well, I'm excited for that first quest as well.
Are they gonna assign us missions at least when we're starting out, or?
Yes.
Okay.
You will also, be able to take on your own quests. And there's, it's in the campaign intro that I gave you guys about, there's a kind of a general principle of okay, you've been confirmed as a new Conroy, which is the name for a group of knights. And you guys can come up with a name, or I will assign you a name for your squad.
Background story question, real quick.
Yeah.
Have we been training together at all? Do we know each other at all? Is this going to be something we're just assigned random people, or is it going to be assigned people we've been working with over the last 6 months?
You guys have known each other minimum 1 year. Possibly longer than that. Possibly a lot longer than that.
I heard minimum, and then nothing for a while, and then possibly lots.
My computer has been fine all this time, and now with the latest Windows update, it must be using a few more percentage of my CPU.
I don't know, man. It's been pretty bad.
Jeez. I don't know what's wrong. I think I have to set up my multi-computer streaming. Okay, what was I talking about?
How long we've known each other.
You've known each other a while. You would not have been put together otherwise. Minimum 1 year you've known each other? Possibly much, much longer than that. You could even have come up together in the Sky Knights. Did you hear any of that?
Yeah, no, I heard it all.
Okay.
Are there like defined roles within a group of Sky Knights, or is it all just we're all knights and let's go? Or is like one person squad leader or something?
It's not, it's kind of a military order. There are ranks, but none of you have any. There's no squad leader. You are expected to act with honor, and it's kind of assumed that, that's part of the reason why you must have trained together, is because you would not have been assigned together unless you were compatible.
So roleplay compatibility, got it.
Well, yeah, basically.
You're all my family.
Makes sense.
If you guys started, sniping at one another or backstabbing each other, you would lose honor. There are a bunch of honorary titles. There is a Lord Commander of the Gurian Sky Knights, and there are certain positions within the Sky Knights that any large organization needs. There's a Master of Squires, which you guys would definitely know. There's, a treasurer, secretary, that kind of thing. Who are all Sky Knights. And powerful ones.
Do Sky Knights retire, or do all Sky Knights just eventually die? Like, in battle?
There's not really like an official retirement. But it is possible for you to, gain so much responsibility to something that the Sky Knights pretty much never call on you anymore.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
The best example is probably you are granted a title and lands, and you become a landed gentry, and it's well, if you go off questing, what happens to the people under your care?
In that case in particular, what would happen to your mount? Do the mounts get cycled to new recruits, or
no? Once you are giving your mount, it's expected you will be together for life.
Cool, I like that.
Sky Knights can marry. They usually don't, and there's a kind of a joke around the barracks that you're married to your mount.
Your work wife or work husband.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't see that ending very well for me.
I don't know. You're just the only one that has a real independent streak.
I do have a lore question.
Sure.
So in your description for the campaign, you noted that it was the actions of a Sky Knight that caused the Darkwind Tempest. So was there some animosity, from the populace and from the Garian Dominion towards the Sky Knights?
No, there's not really animosity. What do you mean? Oh, because of the one night that some say may have triggered the Tempest?
Yes.
No. We may have to handle some of the answer to that question in game. But it definitely... There's a lot of complex feeling around that guy. Because it's a kind of an idea that he may have done the honorable thing, but at the cost at a cost that everyone else paid.
Got
Do
it.
the means justify the ends?
That's an interesting way of putting it. Yeah, so there's mostly there isn't a, it's political. You know, you as a newly minted knight, I guess it would depend. You might know more about the politics, you might know less. We'll have to handle that in game. But essentially, the Sky Knights are very closely tied to the royal family. The Lord Commander is related to them. And they are not under the direct control of the Dominion, but it's kind of like the kingdom is their country and they lend aid constantly. It's kind of like they're separate, but sometimes it feels like they're not. I don't know if that clarified anything for you.
No, but it added more flavor.
It's complex. It added more depth, right?
That's the word.
Yeah, Sky Knights are literally benevolent unless they go rogue, as Kenny puts it. That's an interesting note, Kenny. Kenny suggests most successful marriages probably come within their own Sky Knight's order. As both partners understand, the mounts will avoid any acts that could cause themselves to get beaked. On the one hand, yes, but also, like, if you're both married to your mount and trying to be married to each other, that's a lot of divided attention. So, it's kind of, it's not easy. No matter how you slice it. The path of the Sky Knight is, not an easy one.
You're just married with two sky babies.
Yeah, maybe if your mounts, super get along, maybe there's something there. I don't know.
I'm sure that my Griffin will get along with any Pegasus that he comes across.
Yeah, totally. That's actually one thing that I should mention, is kind of the power arc of this game. You guys are starting out at level 1, and at level 1, depending on the mount you chose, it might be far more powerful than you are. Especially the Griffin.
Yeah, I kind of noticed that.
Mm-hmm.
9 hit points.
Holy hell.
The Bronze Dragon has multiple powers. The Griffin is definitely the heavy attack monster. Now, as you guys do stuff and level up, the mounts will level up too, but even though they will be leveling up a little faster, slightly faster than you, especially early on, for some of you. Oh, I should mention how that works. But I'll get to that in a second. You will overtake your mount. You will overtake your mount's power, and at some point in the leveling up, the mounts are going to kind of withdraw into the background, and they're going to become much less important than what you are doing. At some, with the random level up system, that's just going to happen. So, I guess it's neither a good nor a bad thing. It's just that's the arc that's going to happen. So be prepared for that. There's going to be a kind of a spot somewhere in the mid levels where you and your mount are kind of equal power, perhaps. and then you're going to overtake them by a lot.
Okay, that actually also brings me to another mechanical question, talking about like the Griffin's attack power and stuff. So are we using the standard D&D rules for controlling mounts where like it's either controlled, in which case it doesn't attack, or it's uncontrolled, at which case it kind of acts on its own? Or are you wanting to do some kind of modification to that?
You're going to control it on your turn.
Okay.
So if you dive in and make melee attacks, you'll make your attacks and the mount's attacks.
Okay. Okay, because that's different from what's standard in D&D.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay. Cool.
Yeah, you're thinking, like, is it getting its own initiative, in which case it gets its own attacks?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, basically, like, if you've got a mount fully under your control where you can dictate where it's moving and all that kind of stuff, it forgoes its ability to do attacks.
Mm-hmm.
So.
We're not doing that.
Okay.
I feel like that would be super lame. If, like, oh yeah, I can do all these attacks, but, and also, like, I do not want to literally double the number of PCs.
Yeah. I definitely hear that.
Thanks for that sexual joke, man with no screen name. Everyone's mounting things. Is everyone in this campaign a horny bard? Actually, nobody's playing a bard, I don't think. Which is a first.
Do we have a healer?
We do not.
Sweet.
I heal with lightning.
I noticed that.
Sounds
You're gonna be wanting to use
I
that
was about
honor.
to say we don't have any divine characters either, and then I realized, oh wait, we also don't have a healer.
You are going to want to be requisitioning healing potions with that honor.
I mean, I could try to heal you with necrotic damage, but I don't think that'll help you.
Yeah, Dave, any chance that you're
You heal
going with
with
the
arrow?
Celestial Bond pact? For your warlock?
No, I went with the old one. But I guess I could go Celestial Bond, though. Well, pacts are different, yeah, so I might be able to go pact. Well, we'll see.
I mean, theoretically, I could go Divine Soul, or whatever the Sorcerer Divine Caster traded.
I'm not trying to push anybody towards being a healer.
It's
Mostly
actually
just-
interesting that there are a lot more healing options now besides Cleric and Bard.
I will say this, that in a game where you can fall to your death at least 50% of the fights, the healer may be less important.
Yeah. You guys get Featherfall, not a heal.
Yeah, death might be a more binary
We're
condition.
prioritizing flying and feather falling and
I should mention, not every single fight is going to be mounted in the air. I'm thinking it might be a 60-40 or 50-50 split between that and like landing on islands and exploring them and trying to figure out what's going on and etc. So there may be some traditional D&D dungeon crawling in this game as well.
Okay,
yeah, that sounds good.
cool.
Oh, I was going to mention about leveling up. So, people, I promised you that your mounts, there would be incentive to choosing a lower CR mount, as opposed to just picking the most powerful option because it's the most powerful always. So it's basically, it's kind of semi-based on CR. Of course, as we know, CR is a not always correct anyway, but it's a good baseline. So some of you have chosen a CR 1/4 mount. Some of you have chosen a CR 1 mount. Some of you have chosen a CR 2 mount. We are going to use that as kind of the mount level. And I just made air quotes if you're not seeing my camera. The So the CR1. So basically, how do I put this? We're going to use the milestones XP method as true gentlemen do nowadays. But we're going to add minor milestones. So there's going to be minor milestones and major milestones. Basically, minor milestones are like every combat-ish. And major milestones are accomplishing a quest and, coming to a safe location, etc. Ish. If your mount is of a CR lower than your current character level, it will get an upgrade during every minor milestone. And then we will consider its CR to go up by 1 step. Okay? So, when you guys pass a minor milestone, I think the giant bat and the giant owls are both CR4, 1/4. Okay? You will get 4 upgrades before it is considered CR1.
Okay.
And then you'll get, so does that make sense? So then your mounts will level up with you on a major milestone as well. Which is when your character levels up. So your mounts will kind of, hopefully, the idea is they'll at least catch up in terms of getting more stuff. The lower CR mounts will get more stuff to kind of bring them up to the level of the higher CR mounts. Make sense?
Yes.
Yep.
Cool. That said, don't expect your mount to, don't expect the lower CR mounts to, become the same kind of combat monster that the Griffin is right now. For example, I think one owl has a massive stealth bonus. And what did Lilith's owl get? New trick?
Turns.
Oh, right, better maneuverability. So there are going to be things that your mount, excels at, that are randomly determined and make it completely unique. Sound good?
Yep, I like that.
Sweet.
Sounds good to me.
All right. Well, stop me if you think of another question, but otherwise, we're pretty much done. So, nice short session. Thank you guys. That was very interesting. I'm really glad we did a session 0 because that was a lot of explaining. There was a lot of stuff to go over for this game, so I think it was important.
Looking forward to playing.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So hopefully, unless something comes up, we will play session 1 and the start of your first quest next week, 1 week from now. Thank Thank you so much, Sir Andy, played by Matt. Sir Pate, played by Corey. Sir Zanzorin, played by Josh. Sir Reet, played by Dave. Sir Lilith, played by Kate. And Sir... what was Lindsay's character's name?
Kaluna.
Right. Kaluna. Sir Kaluna, played by Lindsay. Thank you, guys. Thank you for your interest. Thank you for playing in this awesome campaign. I'm super, super excited to really get started. And thank you to the Man with No Screen Name. Thank you to Kenny. Thank you to anybody else who is watching this right now or watches this later. Thank you especially to Kenny for all the awesome suggestions. As always, my friend. Thank you to Fox Axes for the new Prime subscription this stream. And all the awesome subscribers bumping up the signal of the Super Commoner Twitch stream. Many thanks for helping me keep this going. And yeah, I guess that's it. Good night.
Alright, that was awesome. I'm pumped.
Good night.
Awesome. I will say I will be back on tomorrow night for my other D&D campaign, which is way past Session 0, the Wildlands campaign. So come back for that tomorrow night at 8:30 p.m. Eastern. That's all, folks. Have a great one. Hope we see you again soon. Good night.